I'm sure you guys saw that there were some updates on the new Cummins for 2025, and we got to talk about them. So I got my buddy Josh from Truck Stuff. He's going to kind of explain a few things with you guys on some of the updates, and I'm going to give you my take at the end of the video. So let's go ahead and jump into it. If you haven't done so yet, be sure to subscribe to the channel, make sure your bell notification on. Let's get into it. So Josh, we got some updates on this new Cummins, right?
Yeah, we got a couple. Got a few little tidbits of information.
All right.
Some good, some leading, we'll say.
Yeah. Now we didn't see that they were going to do a 7.2, but that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, your sources, I mean, they may not be 100% wrong because they have not unveiled really the displacement yet, but it does look like it might be a 6.7 again.
Yes, it does look like it's going to be a 6.7 again with a lot of upgrades. I think they learned their lesson with the failures involved with the 5th gen, and I think we're going to see some improvements brought back to the great name of Cummins. So
cool.
The 7.2, I think they're still in development because they don't want to make the same mistake they did with the 5th gen.
Yeah.
Especially the 22, 23 model years.
Yeah, did they make any changes like to the roller lifters, things like that, or?
Not sure yet.
Okay.
I'm not sure if they've gone back to a flat tappet solid lifter design, or if they're going to stay with the roller lifter but improve the roller bearings, which are the main cause of failure.
Okay.
I'm hoping that at some point they learn their lesson with the hardening processes and stick with manufacturers that are going to make metals that are hard again. Sounds like a MAGA statement, doesn't it? Make metals hard again.
That's awesome. Well, let's go ahead and talk about the first point here. The one I wanted to talk about with you is that CGI. So let's go ahead and jump into it.
Okay.
So Josh, we've done a few videos on some torn down Cummins together.
Yes.
And I've always thought that the CGI was a good idea because Ford uses it with the Power Stroke, and it's a little bit lighter. But now it looks like they're going back to, what, cast iron?
Cast iron, yeah. CGI, the biggest benefit that they have with CGI over an iron block is the weight. But we're talking about a truck that weighs over 7,000 pounds. So what's another 45 pounds worth of metal when we're talking about strength? Over the past 4 years, 5 years, I've seen more inspection holes in the side of these CGI blocks than I ever have in an iron block. So I really could care less about 45 pounds of metal. I want to see strength and bring back the strength that the Cummins block has always been synonymous for. CGI, it's lower production cost. I think that's the biggest benefit besides weight. You know, they are trying to reduce the weight of these trucks as much as they can to help satisfy some EPA regulations. But we got to go back to that Chevron deference and the impact that it's going to have on EPA decisions and the California Resources Board and how it's handled through the EPA. So I don't think that the 45-pound gain or loss is going to be as relevant as it was prior to the dissolution of the Chevron deference.
Got you.
So I think they're realizing from their mistakes and with the political future coming up that they need to get back to their roots, back to the strong points of the engine instead of making it lighter. Yeah.
Well, I mean, to your point, the one good reason to have that CGI is payload too, right? So some guys out there are, you know, this is a 2500, for example. If I were to show you the yellow sticker on this truck, it'd be probably about 1900. Well, this is a mega cab, so it'd probably be about 1800 to 1900 pounds of payload.
1,000.
Yeah. Was
8 bed payload.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Whereas on a Ford F-250 or even a GM truck, they have a higher gross vehicle weight rating. So in that case, having the CGI, even if it's 50 pounds lighter or even 25 pounds lighter, every pound counts when this comes down to payload.
Well, if you want to reduce the weight of the truck, they get rid of the steel fenders, the bed sides, and go with the Alumaduty way, right?
Yeah.
Except for when you blow a tire, now it tears your whole fender off.
Ooh, yeah.
So there's the problem with trying to save weight there. But you don't try and trim weight off of the thing that's providing you the power and the ability to pull 26,000 pounds down the road. You don't cut the weight out of that. That's like saying you need to lose some fat off your body. Let's take it out of your heart. You don't do it. So that decision to try and save weight there was, I think it was pretty foolish, actually. There's a lot of other places they can try and shave weight off of. I mean, they have tried a little bit, like the hoods on these are aluminum. They're not steel. We can't really sacrifice any of the suspension or drivetrain due to weight, but we're only talking 45 pounds.
Yeah.
The difference between a CGI block and a cast iron block, or complete engine assembly. It went from trying to trim the fat to taking away the heart and the muscle.
Got you.
So,
good stuff. So here's the last thing we gotta go over. Now the article says here, the intake manifold has been re-engineered for improved airflow, and top-loaded cartridge filters for oil and fuel will simplify maintenance. That doesn't make sense how they wrote that out, but it's okay. So what are your thoughts on them changing the structure of how they do the maintenance on this truck?
That's going to be a toss-up. Fuel filter design on these, yes, it needs improvement. Companies like FASS out there have been making that change for a lot of years. And improving the fuel filter design, the serviceability. Yes, they still have spin-on filters, but you know, that's again somewhere where they're trying to save cost and maintenance. You know, a spin-on filter costs more than a cartridge, theoretically. We'll see if that translates into when people actually start doing their maintenance on these. As far as the oil filter, this oil filter design that is currently in use has been in use since the inception of Cummins in a pickup truck. It works. Why change it? I don't agree with going with a cartridge style filter. We don't know the problems that we're going to have with that. Are we going to see cartridges starting to collapse? Are we going to see leftover oil in that housing that drains back into the oil pan? And now we have a procedure issue, which, you know, a lot of the quick lube shops aren't going to do. You got to be able to get that extra quart of oil out of there before you run it back again, because of course we want all 3 gallons of oil to be drained from the engine. Problem with the Chevy and the Duramax is when you drain the oil out of them, you have about a quart of oil left in that pan that cannot drain out. I don't want to see that same mistake happen if they go with a cartridge style oil filter on these Cummins. Now, as far as the air intake being redesigned to improve air, the aftermarket industry has been on top of that for 30 years. Gale Banks has gone through extensive efforts to improve the intake manifold. You see the Monster Ram? I am a very high endorser of anything that's going to improve the ability for these engines to breathe. So again, back to the horsepower versus weight and everything else. Got to keep up with the Joneses, with the Fords and the Chevys. Yes, they have to make improvements on it, and that's one of the areas where I've always said that Dodge needs to do better. You know, you've got this massive power plant pushing out well over 1,000 foot-pounds of torque, and you're restricting it all going through a little square about like that. It's stupid.
Stupid.
Now, as far as getting away from the air grid heater,
well, hold on. Before we talk about that, hold on. Yeah, we'll wait on that. So, guys, Josh is a big wealth to this channel, but you gotta go subscribe to his truck stuff. I'll put it here. I'm not gonna steal your thunder on the grid heater. I want you to talk about it on your channel because I can't wait to hear what you're gonna say about that. Okay? I can't wait to hear.
Glow plugs.
You what? Oh, you don't like glow plugs?
I hate glow plugs.
So yeah. So before I don't want to hear what you're gonna say because I'm gonna say my piece on the grid heater. I actually like the glow plugs, but hey, I can't wait to hear what you're gonna say.
It's another part that fails.
Yeah, and there's 8 of them, right?
6.
6 of them. Okay. Oh yeah, 6 of them for ours. I'm thinking about my GMC. So yeah. Okay, so yeah.
And you got to think about 6 of them on the Eco Diesel that we replace all the time.
Oh, okay. Do they use the what kind did they have on my GMC? Forget I can't remember what they have.
Yeah, we'll tackle that on.
We'll tackle another video, but yeah. Be sure to subscribe to his channel. Let's go ahead and jump into this grid heater. Ceramic glow plugs. Every time I turn my camera off, I can always remember, but when I turn this thing on, it's like everything that I know goes out of my head. But let's talk about the grid heater for a second. everyone has their feelings on this system here. So as you guys know, Ram doesn't have the glow plugs like the GMC and Ford trucks do. They have this, and this is what heats up the combustion. So I have found that my GMC and Ford do heat up a lot quicker in comparison with the Ram trucks with the grid heater. So I personally like the idea of glow plugs, although to Josh's point, you have basically 5 more things to fail in comparison. Although, as you guys know, Banks Power has done a lot of videos on this. These grid heaters have a bolt inside that does break off, and it can take out your engine. So it's pretty much a catastrophic failure. You're talking 20 grand plus just for the engine, not including installation. So they have a system, intakes, I believe they call it. I can't remember the exact name of it, but they have something to replace the grid heater, and it's supposed to be better for performance, efficiency, all that good stuff. Now, you can't see it here, but there is a lot of buildup on the grids inside of this intake here. So me personally, I don't like this design, because over time, if you don't plan on doing that Banks upgrade, you're gonna have a reduction in power because of that buildup from, you know, the junk inside that comes out of this engine basically. So my opinion is, I would prefer just to have glow plugs, even for that very reason too. So let me know your thoughts on that. I think that over time, as that grid gets built up, you're gonna have a reduction in power overall. Now I wanna read some of this article to you guys. I'm gonna jump back and forth really quickly, but it says here the 6.7 liter Cummins engine itself will receive multiple upgrades. Sources from hdrams.com reveal that the engine will feature a redesigned cylinder head with external injectors and fuel rail lines, enhancing both efficiency and reliability. Its iron block construction ensures durability under demanding workloads, while glow plugs replace the intake manifold grid heater, providing better cold start performance. So as I just said there, I can attest to that, as I just said. We already pretty much talked about the intake manifold. They are saying another major improvement in this is the whole set variable geometry turbo with a 10-blade design. This advanced turbocharger optimizes exhaust gas pressure and airflow to the engine, ensuring better power delivery and responsiveness, particularly when towing heavy loads. Now, let's talk about pricing for a second here. So the Cummins is going to be $12,595. You guys have pretty much seen other videos I've done saying that they will not be a standard and high output Cummins. They're only going to have one version. So with that being said, that $12,595 price here that you guys are going to see, that is for the Cummins and the Powerline transmission, which is an 8-speed. This will 100% simplify the buying process for Ram. As I've said in the past, this is probably the only HD truck that I would never go and buy off the lot. And the reason why is because there's just so many options that they have available that aren't really available with the other two. So I'm a picky person, so I would rather spec my truck the way I want to. Now with that being said, no more high output and standard output Cummins. You're just gonna have one Cummins with all the horsepower, all the torque. That is a big bonus for the 3/4 ton guys, because if you don't remember, 3/4 ton trucks could not get the high output and the Eisen transmission. They had to get the 68 with the standard output. That's gone. That's gonna really simplify the purchasing of these trucks. Hopefully though, as I've said in many other videos too, payload is a problem on these 3/4 tons. Let's go ahead and take a look at it on this truck really quickly. This is a mega cab. It has 5th wheel prep package, although it does not have the spray and bed liner. It does not have air suspension. It also does not have a center console, but it does have a sunroof. Let's see what it is. So I was right. Between 18 and 1900 pounds of payload, 1833 pounds. So that is the problem that you have. If you were looking at a comparable GM or Ford, they're gonna have about 3,000 pounds of payload capacity. Ram really has to do something about that number. It's not even a conversation anymore. They have to do something about that number. And that's just to compete with the other two. Now I know some people are gonna say, well, that number doesn't really matter. Trust me, it matters. because it wouldn't be there if it didn't. I think the government should relax the ruling on the 10,000 pound GVWR. They should raise that by 1,000 pounds, and they should raise the gross combined weight rating restriction at 26,001 to maybe 28,001 pounds, because again, like I said, these trucks have gotten heavier over the years because of all the crap that they want on them, like the EGR, the SCR, DLC, DPF, DEF, all that crap adds weight to these trucks. I'm willing to bet you it's probably 100, 200 pounds, if not more, of just extra weight you have to lug around on these trucks for emission stuff. But I hope you guys liked the video. I think Josh made some good points in the video. You've always had the simplification of the maintenance on these trucks. Don't complicate it. And I hope that that's the case, that if they do change it, they're making it easier. But I would like to see the flat tappet design, but we'll have to wait and see what they do. I think that they've made some mistakes on this truck, and it's time for them to make this the best diesel option in the segment again.